Welcome, everyone. I'm Mariquita Solis, your Uncaged Heart Coach. Welcome to Uncaged Leaders, right? Uncaged Leaders live stream show. My mission is to help men step out of performance and step into true connection, helping them break down emotional barriers so they can build harmonious relationships. So today we're diving into a concept that affects every single man on this planet, and not just men. We're all affected by this, the man box. And what is the man box? It's a rigid, invisible cage of expectations that tells men they must be stoic, flawless, and completely detached from their emotions just to be considered enough. Now, this is some emotions. It's okay to be angry and lustful or feel lust, and these emotions are okay. But being vulnerable and soft, that's not okay. So, my guest today is living proof that it's never too late to break out of that man box and claim your ultimate truth. Joining me this afternoon is my good friend Jim Waldrop. And Jim and I go to Unity North Atlanta together. Jim is an 81-year-old father, a former Baptist deacon, chairman, and a proudly out bisexual man. For over 4 decades, Jim hid his true self in the pursuit of being normal. He navigated a 43-year marriage built on suppression, internalized shame, and religious dogma. But in his mid-70s, Jim experienced a profound spiritual and personal awakening. And this is so exciting. It really touches my heart. So Jim was guided by deep self-forgiveness, the inclusive community of Unity North Atlanta, and the unconditional love of his partner, Alice White. Jim shattered the exhausting myths of bisexuality to fully claim his identity. Today, he's here to share his deeply moving journey, moving from what he calls an emotional train wreck to living an authentic, liberated life. And so Jim's story is an example that there are no versions of love. There's only love. So Jim, welcome to Uncaged Leaders. I'm excited that you're here with us today.
Thank you, Mariquita. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's what's amazing is that, I don't know if it's cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, I was doing strange things out there.
Okay, well, that's all good. I'm doing strange things too. Let us know if you're watching, y'all, if you have any questions for Jim, and we can address those. So anyway, nevertheless, I'm excited about this conversation because this takes a lot of courage. 70 years past, that's decades and decades of living in a reality, gosh, that society puts us in, and to be able to break out of that. Can you tell us, Jim, tell me about your childhood as a boy. As a little boy, what did you think it was to be a man? What's a real man? What were you taught a real man does and believe and acts?
I'm not certain that I was taught what a real man should be. My father had been a sawmiller, so he was a very physical individual. He seemed to work more than anything else. He worked full-time at the Chattanooga Water Company, and then he also did farming and did that around the house and would work secondary jobs. So I saw him probably as an example that I was not even aware of. By the time I was 10 or 11 years old, I was already attracted to boys, and it was definitely not mentioned in our home. And so I knew that that real men were womanizers, I guess would what I would say. The folks that my dad worked with joked a lot about women, and so I heard a little of that and didn't fully understand that, but I knew that I was, or at least I felt that I was a bit different than most of the people. When I was 11 years old, I dressed for Halloween as a female, and my brother, who's 5 years my senior, told me, said, "Jimmy, you're the prettiest girl I've ever seen." And I didn't truly internalize that, but I think I probably did. So that was some of what guided me through the rest of my hiding out.
Gosh, yeah. And that's a very normal, unfortunately, childhood and the way of speaking a lot of times. I mean, I heard the womanizing. Even my friend was telling me the other day, the more women you can have sex with, the more you're considered a man. So yeah, it's a hard thing to grasp as a female, and I'm sure it's confusing for young boys as well, because when you have mother figures and you're taught to respect your mother, hopefully, but then if you're making fun of females or treating them like objects, something's not jiving there, you know?
That's correct. You know, it's not always easy to look back and evaluate the things that established where your next step was, but you know, I felt that my responsibility as a young man, and I say that even from the time I was in my early teens, as a young man, my objective was to be with a female. I felt like that was the normal thing, although that was not what I was doing. I was very much involved with several neighborhood boys and a couple of my friends at school. So
Gosh.
I
Well, that
found
was,
that,
mhm.
yeah, I found
Go
that
ahead.
I found that the easiest path for me to walk because guys hang out and that's okay. And so, you know, people didn't know what we were doing while we were hanging out.
Gosh, well, I see JJ's here. Thanks for watching, JJ. So, were you afraid that you would be caught, or what would have happened to you if your parents had found out? Did they ever suspect anything?
I'm not certain that they did. I rather doubt that they did. Uh, I never really considered being caught. I was very, I think one of the things that I thought was, let's see, in high school, I told people I was evasive and uncatchable. I didn't feel the need to worry about being caught because I could do what I wanted to do and nobody else knew what I was doing, and because I was smarter than they were. And I think that was probably the more my mindset than the fear of getting caught. I had no fear of getting caught because I knew I couldn't be caught because who was smart enough to catch me?
Yes. And what about the other boys now? Did they come out? Did anyone come out and or express wanting to, or saying, you know, we are attracted to boys, young men, in high school, any of that period? Were there others that kind of were examples?
One of my high school friends, one that I was close to, I was very close to him. Uh, I think everyone suspected that he was homosexual, but you know they didn't equate that with him being homosexual with folks that we knew. You know, he was just not straight. Uh, I don't know that he actually came out as such, but as I said, you know, people were very much suspicious that he was a homosexual.
Well, my best friend, who has passed away about 5 or 6 years ago. He struggled with that as well. I remember him saying he as a little boy, he loved Wonder Woman, and he put a towel around his head and would spin around and pretend he was Wonder Woman, but he didn't want anyone to see him. And he went out with women in high school. The pressure was on to go out with girls and to do that. And feeling judged and feeling shamed by churches. It was very hard for him. And I feel like even when he passed, he never was able to get past the wounds that hurt him so badly as a gay man. And his father had left the family also, so he didn't have anyone there to support him. So my heart has always been it's just felt so much compassion for the LGBTQ community. And that's why I've always been an ally, because of him, but also because we're all different, right? And society tries to put us in boxes and forces us to do things that we don't want to do. So when you were in high school, were you dating girls then?
7th and 8th grade, I was in the band. And by 9th grade, I'd pretty much determined, as I think my older brother, who had been a fairly well-recognized football hero, kind of encouraged me to get out of the sissy band and starting football. So my 9th grade, my freshman year in high school, I played, I was in junior high football, and I was in the marching band at the high school. And, the fact that I started playing football kind of changed the way people looked at me and the way people accepted me. And I was pretty much a ladies' man. Lots of friends, and probably some that were more interested in me romantically than I even knew at the time. We were not very good at expressing our feelings in any way. And so I alienated a few of the girls because I would make fun of them. I would do those things that would basically, real men don't associate with feminine things. And so I think I probably alienated some of the girls in my school.
And was your father, so he was a tough guy, it sounds like. Did he express or ever, was there any discussion about feelings or any of that when you were a child? Your mother, tell us about that.
Well, I was my mama's favorite. I was number 5 of 7 children, and I was my mother's favorite, but so were the other 6. It was one of those things that she made each one of us feel special. My dad never told me out in words that he loved me. He showed me love, but it was never expressed. That was another thing that apparently real men didn't do. They didn't express themselves. I was, during part of my initial years as a teenager, I was fairly emotional. I'm fairly emotional now. I'm getting emotional just thinking about being emotional. But Big Boys Don't Cry was not just a song. It was something that was expressed, and but I learned to express that fairly early. I didn't have a problem showing emotion, but I think sometimes I began to suppress it somewhere along the way, and I'm not sure exactly where. But hey, I cry in movies.
What does that do to a man, suppressing all those emotions? What did that do to you?
What it did for me was, even though I was suppressing the emotions, I was not even truly aware that I was doing that. I felt like what I was doing was normal. And so, I knew what, I saw what men were supposed to be and what men were supposed to do. And I followed that. Um, I was, when I started my careers, I was, locker room talk, not as explicit as some have expressed along the way, but still it was a masculine type of joking, kidding around, towels being flipped. It was almost expressed as the more pain you can inflict on others, the more they will respect you. And all of that just, it built that suppression in a way that was not healthy. It was very interesting. Before I was married, my first wife, the wife of 43 years, I loved her enough to express to her who I was and the fact that I had sexual relationships with other boys, with men, and before our marriage. And she said, well, that's really okay. I think I can help you overcome that. So we started overcoming.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's very interesting, isn't it? Yes. And that is a response that I've heard before, right? I mean, gosh. And did she ask? I don't know even know what to say here. It's very hard to deal with, isn't it?
Yeah, well, she really didn't ask any questions. She said, I don't want to know any more about it. I just want it to be over. I want that to be in the past. And so I agreed that it could be in the past, and the past was certainly in the past, but it was also my day-to-day living.
And what was that like to basically deny who you were every day? And you've made an agreement to deny who you were.
Well, I don't know that I was denying who I was. I was becoming who everyone wanted me to be, and that became who I was. I was a very good play actor. Uh, I I could convince anyone of anything. That was one of the things that I prided myself on, the fact that I could be anyone to any other person, whoever they needed me to be or wanted me to be. I was able to do that. I was play acting most of my life and put myself in the role to the point that not only they believed it, but I believed it. So I didn't feel at that time, I did not feel distracted or pulled one way or the other. Everything that I did was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and we're taught. I mean, society is teaching us the way to behave. It's almost like we don't have a choice. So we grow up in these rigid boundaries of what is a woman and what is a man, what's a little girl. And it's interesting. I was watching a show where there was a couple and they were saying, we are not teaching our children. I mean, they were non-binary and their children weren't being taught to be a man or woman. And someone said, well, how are they going to know how to behave? Well, isn't that the problem? Like when we say you're a girl, you have to behave this way. I mean, that's what I felt, that now you can't. You're my brother. I was so jealous of my brother because he got to do all the rough, tough stuff and I had to wear the dresses.
Well, the one thing that I realized fairly early in my biblical teaching was that that in the beginning God created man, is the way the Bible says it, but it says male and female created he them. After he had said, let us make man in our own image. And so I felt very positive about the fact that when God said, let's make man after our image, male and female, then God must have been male and female. And so I had no issue being male and female. And so I lived my life pretty much that way. And, when I expressed that to others, it was almost heresy. God's the father, he's not the mother. I've since learned that that's not true. God is who we are. And the interesting thing was, this past Sunday, our pastor in his presentation reminded me that love is love. And, what the word says about that is that by what Jesus said was, by this shall all men know that you're my disciples, that you have love for one another. And that love is a deep love, and it's an understanding love. It's an accepting love. And I realized that I've not always done that. I've not always shown that I love people. And that goes back even to my childhood. I was inappropriate in my childhood with one of my sisters. And, it was just a touching, but it was an improper touch. And, that's 65 years ago, and I still deal with that. I mean, I've caused them great pain, and I'm greatly sorry for doing that. But I'll never be back to that point where I'm accepted as a real person, as opposed to being someone who's been inappropriate.
Well, it sounds like you've done a lot of self-reflection. When did that start happening? I mean, what changed in your life to bring you to the point of something's got to give here?
Well, about 7 years ago, I met a woman who I was able to openly express to her everything I was, who I was, and she accepted me fully. And as at that time, I would have considered myself a bisexual person. And I still consider myself not a bisexual, but a pansexual, because there's no one that I can't love. And that love doesn't have to express itself sexually. It just has to express itself as love. And she led me to the point, she accepted me for who I was. And because of her acceptance, our relationship was the first relationship that I truly had a monogamous relationship. I was not faithful to my first wife. I was not faithful to my second wife. I was not faithful to anyone that I was dating throughout that time. So, but with Alice, what we shared was something that I had never fully experienced. I mean, I think that's the first time I really understood and accepted what love is. And because of that, the way she did it was, she didn't push me to do anything. She would get up on Sunday morning and go to church, to Unity North Atlanta. And she would ask me if I cared to go with her. And once or twice I would. But for the most part, I would just as soon stay at home. But she loved me, encouraged me in quiet ways and in special ways. And eventually, I think it was at a New Year's Burning Bowl service that I determined that I would go with her for certain, and that I would happily go with her, as opposed to going with her because out of necessity. But at that service, I was able to express some things on the paper and put them in the burning bowl. That was just a very special experience for me. And, the people around me were accepting me. The people there at the church were very loving and very accepting. And so I determined that I'd be a regular attender with her. And so I did, but it was only about 4 years ago that I came out to the entire church congregation, that the life that I had led. I titled a presentation that I did as hiding out. I don't remember exactly how I expressed it, but the fact that I had been hiding out and playing a role, and then finally I was coming out. And so I came out to my church as a bisexual, and I was accepted fully there, just as Alice had accepted me fully. Others did as well. And that love has transformed me to the point that, as I said, for the 7 years I was with Alice, I was in a monogamous heterosexual relationship, and I'd never been there before. And but that didn't change the fact that in my heart, I was still bisexual or pansexual, whatever you want to call it. It's Mariquita, it's almost to me like the issues that we have today in our society. People want to make groups and make a group oppose another group in order to lift that group up. And I've found out that that's not what we do. When we lift others up, that's when we're lifted up. And so that's what I want to do, and that's what I try to do in my life today.
Well, that's beautiful. I remember your talk, and that's why I thought he's got to come on my show. It was so powerful. It was I don't remember the title, but it was an LGBTQT event at Unity North, and listening to everyone speak and their courage to get up there. And my gosh, that takes a lot of gumption, a lot of love, self-love, and awareness. And yeah, it was an amazing talk. And that's why I always, every time I would see you, I would remember that. And Alice was with you. How beautiful, what a beautiful support. I mean, that's coming home to a home where you're accepted for who you are. That's the most beautiful kind of relationship. And most people don't ever find that in their whole life. They go through relationships that are not based on depth. But when you find someone that loves you for who you are and is patient with you and doesn't try to force you, my gosh, that is a tremendous blessing. She's an angel. Alice was an angel, and she still is with us now. I mean, I can feel her spirit here, because how could such a beautiful spirit, I mean, there's no way that she wouldn't be with us now.
That is true. As you talk about that, I realize that in order for me now to be loved, I have to give love, and I have to show love. And one of the things I learned early in the Baptist church, probably 40 years ago, one of the songs that we sang was, "Stir me to do more than just believe. Stir me, because I've lived so silently. Stir me to serve others." And so, I learned that there. And I also learned that in that, I needed to be able to go to individuals and express myself as who I was. And as I said, I was being who I thought other people felt I should be, but yet that was really me. I was being inauthentic, and yet I was being truly authentic, because who I was was the way it was playing out. You know, I'm a deceiver, but in deceiving myself, I truly became who that was. And so I know that there are things that I need to ask forgiveness for, and I've asked forgiveness. I've been told more than once that if there's a problem between two people, one of the people, if I'm one of those people, then I need to be able to take responsibility for my part. If I feel like I'm 40% right or 50% right, I have to admit to that person that I'm 99% wrong. So if I'm at fault, I need to ask forgiveness from them, and I need to ask forgiveness for the complete failure of our relationship. And I did that at one time with a man in our church who, and when I was younger, he and I had very different opinions about things. And I went to him after feeling this way, and I told him that I felt like I was a problem in our relationship, and I wanted his forgiveness. And he said, "Yes, Jim, you're the problem." I didn't feel like I was the problem, but he certainly did. And I learned to accept that at that point. And I think that's part of the way I got through my life as well, realizing that if I ask forgiveness, then I have to be willing to be completely at fault or in the wrong in that relationship. And so by asking forgiveness, I'm saying, I'm totally wrong. Can you forgive me? And many times people will with that.
Well, that is, yeah, most people don't get to that point where they can acknowledge taking responsibility in relationships. How beautiful that is. I mean, you have to put your ego.
I didn't always do that. Even after I learned it, I didn't do it. There are a lot of lessons that you learn over and over and over, and you learn the lesson almost as if it's a brand new lesson to learn. And so I'm still learning that lesson. I'm still learning to do that. And I want to be open and honest with everyone. And when I reach out to someone and they don't reach back, it hurts me. And yet I have to admit that, I've hurt them in such a way that they're not able to forgive, or they do not wish to forgive. I wanted my family to show love and to allow me to show love, but I was not always a lovable person. And I know because of who I was, I know I caused pain in people's life. And I realized that pain was not only in their life, but it was in my life as well. One of the things we say at Unity is we're walking each other home. But I think in order to do that, we have to know where home is. And that's a difficult thing. That's a difficult part of living, is finding out where is home, what is the center. When I try to center myself, when I consider this is what I want to be, this is what I want to do, this is who I want to be, that shifts at times. And I have to admit that in that shifting, I need to learn to go where that is. I need to find where home is, and I need to admit it to me, and I need to give that to others as well. So walking each other home is is, it's a special thing. Every time I hear that, it lifts my heart, because I want to know where home is. And
That's beautiful. Yes. You've done a lot of self-reflection. Y'all, if you have questions, if you're watching, please put your questions in the comments and we'll try to address them. So, Jim, you had to forgive yourself. How was that for you? And to with the two marriages that ended, and how were the endings, and how did that come about in all the forgiveness aspect of it, and your son?
Well, my first marriage, the marriage 43 years, did not end well. Near the end of it, my wife found out a little bit about what I had been doing as far as my indiscretions were concerned. She caught me watching a porn video, and confronted me at that, and basically pushed me in such a way that my reaction was absolutely incorrect. 43 years of marriage, I feel like I had 43 years of garbage in dump trucks, and I backed those 43 years of garbage in those dump trucks back up on her and dumped them on her to hurt her. I mean, because she was rejecting me from who I was. And so I wanted to hurt her, and I did. I hurt her very deeply. I hurt her in ways. I admitted things to her that she certainly did not want to hear. And as I said, I did that to make her feel the hurt. And that was absolutely wrong. I saw her this past weekend at my sister's ceremony after her death, and we hardly even spoke. I could tell that she still cared about me, to the point that she cares about where I am as far as my religion is concerned. She's still disappointed in the fact that I'm a member of the LGBTQ plus community. She'll never get over that, I think. But I think she's almost, well, it's been 20 years since our divorce, but I think she's almost over that hurt. I think she's probably forgotten that hurt. And I pray that if she sees this and hears this, that I'm not in any way intending to dump more hurt onto her. And I don't want to do that with anyone. I don't want to cause anyone to think that they have an issue, because I'm looking for freedom for me and freedom for others.
Well, your amazing reflection. I mean, your quiet reflection is what brings that about. So, because there's so many people that don't reflect on who they are, who they're presenting to be, and if that's in alignment with their true self. So, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, a lot of people are going through life on autopilot. It breaks my heart that they are.
Yeah. There's really no reason to do that, and yet I do that. So, who am I to say that someone should get their act together? Because I certainly do not have my act together. Like I said, I'm only 81 years old. My goal is to make it another 18 and a half, 19 years. 100 is my goal. And when I get to be 100, I'm going to set a new goal. But in that time, I know I'm still learning, and I learn from expressing myself. I learn from listening to others. I learn by reading, and I don't read much, but I learn many times. I learn by making wrong turns or wrong decisions. Uh, when I was in my middle age years, one of the things I would do when I would take a trip, if I would take a trip with some folks, I had a couple of friends ride with me to Middle Tennessee once, and I made some turns that were the wrong turns. And they said, "Jim, are we lost?" And I said, "Well, no, we're right here." So that's where I find myself many times. When I make a wrong turn, I'm not as much worried about making that wrong turn as I am continuing on forward. And to them, I say, well, I must not have been lost, because here I am today, and I know where I am today. So I must have not been lost.
Yes, you're catching yourself. I mean, or you're seeing, right, that this path is not linear, right? And
It never is.
it never is. And we can be on autopilot. I mean, I have to catch myself, like snap back to reality, what's really happening. Because it's easy. There's so many distractions in life that we can get off course. But as long as we're coming back to center, it's all good. And having that self-compassion to be able to do that. Because if we don't have self-compassion, we can't get back to center. And so how hard was it for you to have that self-compassion? I mean, was that a struggle for you to forgive yourself?
I think to answer that question, was it a struggle? I think it probably was a struggle, but I'm not always aware of the struggle. I didn't always feel like I was had a weight on my shoulders. So I've found that even though I make some wrong turns, even though I make bad decisions at times, those are decisions that I have made, and now I need to move to the next area, or to the next place. I'm not as concerned about those. I'm not as concerned about those things in my life as I used to be. I used to worry about what was, and now I know that it's more about what is, and in what is, it's going to be what is to come. And I don't, my introspection at times has been very fleeting. I'm not as concerned as I should be. Very probably. I want to be who I need to be, and that's where I'm going. That's my next step. My next step is to breathe in and breathe out, and it comes easier with that breathing. One of the things that a pastor, actually he was a missionary, came to our church, and he was talking about confession to God. He called it spiritual breathing, and he says when you feel like you've done something incorrect, you express that and you ask forgiveness, and then you accept that forgiveness, and you go on as if you're totally exonerated because you are. So, get over yourself is basically what he was saying. So spiritual breathing is breathe it in and let it go.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So, y'all, if you have questions, thanks for watching Ellen. And so, what would you say? So, as a mentor to young men that might be watching, or men that are afraid to come out, that are living a life where they're sacrificing their needs, what would you say to those men, Jim?
Well, I'm finding fewer and fewer young people who are ashamed of who they are. Uh, not that they try to overwhelm people with who they are, but I find more young people who are satisfied with expressing themselves as themselves. And so, for any person, young or old, I would say, male or female, I would say, know who you are and learn to express yourself as yourself. And although I'll probably always be an actor, I'll probably always be someone who is, quote, trying to satisfy your needs as much as satisfy my own needs. I would say that the thing to do is just breathe in and breathe out, and in breathing out, express yourself as who you are and be very proud of who you are. And, that's, I want to be part of a community that lifts up every community. I don't want to be a part of any community that will, in order for me to feel better, I've got to make you feel bad. So that's one of the things that I would say to anyone who's listening is become an emotional elevator, lift people up.
Yes, we need that, because you're right. This I don't need anyone, and I'm separate. I'm better than you, or when we're focusing on the differences, it's tearing us apart. We're really suffering. Everyone loses for that kind of the locker room mentality, all those kind of examples, right? Putting people down, we're better, or making fun, bullying. We all lose. No, there are no winners.
That's well put. And when you're throwing rocks if you're in a glass house and you're throwing stones, you're going to break your own windows for sure. You may break some windows outside, but you're going to tear up your own playground, your own home, and you don't want to do that.
Yes, we have to bring in love, and realizing that love is pure. And what did you say? I mean, what did you say about love? Remind us again about that.
Well, I don't know what I said about love. I said, in order to show yourself in love is you've got to reach out to people. You've got to lift them up. You've got to meet them where they are. Love is not, you hear all these things about love means you don't have to say you're sorry. Well, that's not true, because if you're sorry, you need to say you're sorry. If you hurt someone, you need to ask for forgiveness. Love is, pure love is accepting yourself and being yourself with the people that you love, with the individuals you love. So love is love is love is love. And there's no improper way to express love. And I said that, and I think, well, yeah, I guess there is, but only if it's self-centered and selfish does it does it come across that way. You know, don't be an actor when you're love. You know, love is not something that you can play act. You have to be, you know, love is a serious thing. Love is freedom. I don't know how else to express it.
That is very true. Love is freedom. And what really stands out in this conversation is how you took responsibility for the actions you did. And there's no denying it. There's no hiding from it, acknowledging it. And then that was part of your being. And it's not something to run from, but to grow from. And that is so powerful, is taking responsibility, because it's very challenging to say I had a part in this relationship falling apart, or I have a part in the issues that we have. So that's a very key thing that stood out in this conversation, is you having the courage to do that and to move forward, and no matter what age, right? You'll have to come back on when you're 100 or before then.
As I said, I'm only 81 years old. When I was 18, I was only 18 years old. And someone told me just yesterday, there's, 18 or 81, there's really no difference. We're still who we are inside, and we need to be able to express that outwardly. And, we did a sandwich project yesterday, and the youngest person there, I guess they were below 10 years old, but I'm not sure exactly how much below, probably 8 or 9 years old. And then there were a couple of teenagers there as well, and along, standing in the line making sandwiches with old people, with 81-year-olds, with 41-year-olds, with 51-year-olds. And one of the young people there said, there's no difference, 18 and 81. You've got the same problems. You've got the same, the same fears, the same misunderstandings at times, the same understanding at times. And you just have to live your life, is what he said. And I thought, wow, for an 18-year-old, that's very wise. So that's what we need to do. We need to reach into ourselves and express ourselves in such a way that it does draw others to us. And wow, what a wonderful time we had yesterday. And
that's a life of service. Yes, it's beautiful. It's a life that's fulfilling and joyful when you can share your experiences and have the courage to share your story like you're doing here, with responsibility, and go out and make a difference in the community and stand tall. How beautiful that is. I mean, this is so touching.
Well, I'm finding friends now who are in all different areas of life. As far as labels are concerned, they could be labeled a number of ways. One of my new friends is a transsexual who is running for political office, and they're very special. And I'm thinking, what we need to do is we need to take labels off. The label that I have on me now is, people says, what would you call yourself? And I said, well, I'm Jim. It doesn't matter what else you call me. I'm Jim. Call me Jim. Or call me, someone said Sunday, call me hey you, call me whatever you want to call me. I'll answer that. And I'm thinking, if we could just eliminate negative labels, and, even to the fact politically, we could eliminate the left and the right, Democrat, Republican. If we could eliminate those negative things, we would be able to eliminate the negative stereotypes as far as what people think about me as a gay man, as a bisexual man, as a pansexual man, and just realize I'm Jim. And you are who you are. And let's just meet at that point.
Yes, meet from the heart, right? Without the labels. How beautiful that is. It's so true. This is amazing. Yes. And I see that, well, I'm very touched by all of this, Jim, and your honesty and your responsibility and your growth, your self-awareness. I can go down the list. So, but I want to make sure that you have a chance. And also, everyone, thanks for watching us. And if you have any final last thoughts for the audience, and if they want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm in Decatur, Georgia, and I'm looking for people to join me in a walk, in a coffee, and I find people of like-mindedness here. Spiritually, I'm at Unity North Atlanta Church. So physically, I'm there on a regular basis. Here, I'm JIME Waldrop at gmail.com. Everybody says you ought not give out your Gmail. You ought not give out your phone number, but I have no reason not to. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. I think somebody said that once. And so my openness is anyone that would like to talk about where I've been. Yeah, I can talk about that, but I'd rather talk about where I want to be, where I'm going. And where I'm going is walking one another home and helping people find out where home is.
That's beautiful.
And that's whether you're part of the LGBT community or the non-LGBTQ community. And I'm freezing up there. I've never watched me freeze before, but as I said, wherever someone finds themselves, if they're comfortable talking to me, I'm comfortable talking to them. And I'm comfortable talking about any part of my life. There's parts of my life that makes me sad, but more of my life makes me glad. And that's what I want to live my life to be. Someone asked me if I was gay, and I said, and I'm happy most all the time. Yes.
I love it. Yes. Well, this has been a fascinating and such a tender conversation. I knew it would be. And if you want to come tomorrow, is it Saturday tomorrow?
Tomorrow is Saturday. Tomorrow is Friday.
No, wait.
Right?
Tomorrow is Friday.
So it's
yes, Saturday.
Saturday the 13th. Saturday the 13th, we'll be at Smyrna for the Smyrna Pride Festival. We'll have a tent there. We'll be there from 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I'm not certain exact. I've never been to the Smyrna Pride Festival before, so this is going to be a unique experience for me, a first time. But we're going to be there in the marketplace, and we'll have a tent set up, and love to meet folks.
Yes, so y'all come because it's LGBTQ and friends. So we need friends, we need allies. So definitely. So I'm an ally and I'm excited to be there on Saturday. So y'all come out if you're in the Atlanta area, and come check us out at Unity North Atlanta. We have an amazing Reverend Richard who is leading the congregation, and such great groups and obviously congregants. We have one right here, Jim. And yeah, this has been fascinating. So, Jim, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for watching, Ellen and JJ and everyone watching behind the scenes. And please reach out to Jim. So thank you, Jim, again. Thank you for everything, sharing your heart with us.
You're most welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, everyone, Jim. We're going to keep that in our hearts this afternoon. And we'll see you next week, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.